Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we are doing something a little different.
Just a bit.
Yeah, usually, we're swimming in business strategies or maybe tech trends, a historical biography. But today
Wow.
we are swimming in, well, the literal vibrations of the
It's
universe.
definitely a departure, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it's a necessary one. It's,
Yeah.
good to stretch the mental muscles in a new direction every now and then.
Absolutely. And we are picking up a thread we started tugging on recently. We're calling this series Waves of Quantum in the Zeal of Spirituality.
Right.
Now, this is technically part B, but I want to be really clear right off the bat. If you're just joining us, do not worry. Don't click away. You don't need to have heard part A to get your mind blown by what we're covering today.
No, not at all. This stands completely on its own. And mind blown is probably the right warning label for this one. We're definitely dealing with some heavy concepts.
I'll be honest, when I first started reading through the source material for this, my skepticism radar was, it was pinging pretty hard.
I can imagine.
We're looking at a text that claims to bridge the gap between ancient Vedic stuff that's thousands of years old, and hardcore modern quantum mechanics.
It is a bold claim. It's the kind of claim that, usually makes scientists roll their eyes and spiritualists get very, very excited.
Exactly.
But our job here, as always, is to just look at the argument to see if there's any actual structural integrity to that bridge they're trying to build.
That's it. And the central premise we're tackling is this. Is the sound AUM, that chant you hear in every yoga studio from here to Timbuktu, is it just a bit of cultural theater?
A nice little ritual.
Right. Is it just something we do to feel zen? Or, and this is the big question, is it actually a coded mathematical representation of the physical structure of the entire cosmos?
And that is the hook. The source material argues pretty forcefully that AUM isn't just a religious sound. It's not a ritualistic noise. It's a sonic formula.
A sonic formula.
Yes. It suggests that if you actually decode the physics of this sound, you find the blueprint for the Big Bang, the mechanics of black holes, the behavior of quantum entanglement, and, get this, the actual repair instructions for your own DNA.
See, that's where you lose me. Or that's where I need you to walk me through this very, very slowly, because that sounds like a massive leap.
It is.
We're going from a monk sitting in a cave to high-energy particle physics and molecular biology. That's a huge jump.
It is a huge jump, but the bridge is fascinating. So our mission for this hour is to see if that bridge holds any weight. We're going to look at the science of what the text calls inner engineering.
Inner engineering. I like that.
We'll break down how sound frequencies can physically alter the gray matter density in your brain,
Yeah.
how consciousness might actually be the operating system of reality, and the really wild part, how your DNA might be functioning as a quantum antenna.
A quantum antenna. Okay, I'm strapping in. But let's start at the very, very beginning. The sound itself, AUM. The source material says it's not a word, it's a structure. What does that mean?
Right. So in both the Vedantic tradition and the physics analysis that the text provides, AUM isn't one sound. It's a triad. It's broken down into three phonetic components, A, U, and M.
AUM.
AUM, exactly. And these aren't just, arbitrary letters picked out of a cosmic hat. They represent three fundamental states of reality. So let's take the first one, A.
Okay, A.
Phonetically, I actually want you to try this. Open your mouth, but don't use your tongue. Don't use your lips. Just push air from the back of the throat. What do you get?
It feels very guttural, very basic. It's almost like the first noise a baby makes.
It is basic. It's the primal sound. It starts the very root of the vocal tract. And in the metaphysics of the Upanishads, this represents the Jagrat, or the waking state.
The physical
The
word.
physical, tangible world we're sitting in right now. But the physics correlation is where it gets really cool. The source equates A with expansion, with creation.
Expansion. Okay.
Okay.
So we are talking about the Big Bang.
Precisely. Think about the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
You have this singularity, this single point of infinite density, infinite heat, and then suddenly an explosion outward, an explosion of space itself. Energy begins converting into matter. The universe starts to expand. This is the A. It is the very first moment of movement, the inception.
And this is where the text brings in thermodynamics, right? Because an explosion, that implies chaos.
It does. Specifically, it brings in the second law of thermodynamics and this concept of entropy.
Right. Can you just refresh our memories? Entropy is disorder, chaos.
Essentially, yes. It's the measure of randomness or, disorder in a system. Imagine a perfectly clean, organized room. That's a low entropy state.
Okay.
Now imagine exploding a glitter bomb right in the middle of that room.
I have toddlers, so I understand high entropy on a very personal level.
You know exactly what I mean. The moment the Big Bang happens, the moment the universe moves from a state of potential to actual entropy begins to increase, things start moving, colliding, heating up.
It gets messy.
The A sound represents that explosion of existence.
Yeah.
It is the let there be light moment where the, let's call it the hardware of the universe first comes online. It's the beginning of time, and at the same time, the beginning of decay.
Well, that's a cheerful thought. So A is the explosion, the bang.
Yeah.
But the universe isn't just an explosion or we'd all be, cosmic dust. Things settled down.
They did.
Stars formed. We formed.
Exactly right. And that brings us to the second sound in the triad, U. Phonetically, just notice what happens in your mouth. The sound moves from the deep throat, that A, to the middle of the mouth. The shape of your mouth changes. Ooh. It rolls forward. It almost creates a container.
Right, yeah. It feels more contained, more controlled than the A.
It's more controlled, correct. And this represents maintenance, or in the Sanskrit it's called swapna, the dream state. But physically, the source relates this to equilibrium.
Equilibrium. Okay, so the explosion stabilizes itself.
Think about our solar system. You have the sun and you have the planets. Now, why don't the planets just fly off into the void?
Gravity is pulling them in.
Right. The sun's gravity pulls them in. But then why don't they just crash right into the sun?
Their velocity.
Yeah.
Their sideways motion. Centrifugal force.
Exactly.
Right.
They're moving just fast enough to constantly miss it. They're trapped in this perfect, delicate balance, a dynamic tension between falling and flying. That is you.
So if A is the chaotic outward explosion, U is the spin that organizes it and keeps it stable.
Beautifully put, yes. The text actually calls it the quantum state of balance between matter and energy. It's this sustainability that allows for complexity to emerge. If the universe just stayed in the A state, it would be nothing but expanding gas.
Just noise.
Just noise. The U state allows for structure, it allows for galaxies and ecosystems and, even economies to form.
Okay, I'm with you. Creation, maintenance. So that leaves the third part.
Now, what do? You close your lips, the sound moves to the very front, and it vibrates the lips. And then what happens?
It stops. It resolves. It feels like an ending.
It dissolves. This represents destruction, or better yet, dissolution. Metaphysically, this is the state of deep sleep, sushupti. No dreams, no thoughts, no self.
Yeah.
Just nothingness.
And physically. Because destruction usually implies something violent, like breaking things.
The source equates this not with violence, but with a singularity, or a black hole.
That's a heavy comparison.
But think about it. It fits perfectly. What is a black hole? It's a point where gravity becomes so overwhelmingly strong that matter, light, even information itself, gets pulled back into a single point.
So it's the universe pressing the recall button.
Or the cosmic recycling center, maybe. The source equates M to the zero-point field. It's where energy returns to its potential state. It's not gone in the sense that it doesn't exist anymore. It's just no longer manifest. It's waiting for the next Big Bang.
So the chant AUM is literally a sonic map of the entire life cycle of the universe. You have the bang, the spin, and the crunch.
And then you repeat. It's cyclical, but, and this is crucial, the source material says if you stop right there, you've missed the most important part.
I thought there were only 3 letters. What else is there?
There are 3 letters, you're right. But there is a 4th element. And the ancient texts make a very, very big deal about this. It's the silence. The silence that follows the M.
Silence.
The Ardha Mantra. It means the half measure.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me the most important part of the sound is not making the sound. That feels like a trick.
It's not a trick, I promise.
Yeah.
It's the context. The text calls this 4th state Turiya. And from a physics interpretation, this silence represents the field itself.
The quantum field. The vacuum.
Exactly. Think of it this way. The Big Bang, the swirling galaxies, and the collapsing black holes are all things happening on top of something else. They're like waves on an ocean. The silence, well, the silence is the ocean.
That's a really helpful image. So the silence is the potential, the vacuum that everything comes from and goes back to.
Right. But in quantum physics, we know a vacuum isn't empty, is it? It's a plenum. It is teeming with potential energy, with virtual particles popping in and out of existence. It's the canvas upon which the entire universe is painted.
So the goal of chanting isn't just to make the noise.
The noise is just a tool. The source argues the entire point is to use the sound to help you notice the silence that holds it.
You're trying to find the background noise of the universe. Or the background. Silent.
You're trying to find the observer, the Sakshi, because that silence, that field, is the only thing that doesn't change. Universes are born and die, stars explode, but the field remains.
That is profoundly philosophical. But let's ground this for a second. I promised the listeners we'd get technical. We're talking about sound, and sound is vibration. Vibration is math. Does the source give us any hard numbers here, or is it all just beautiful metaphors?
No, it definitely gets into the numbers. And this is where it gets really interesting, especially for any audiophiles listening. Scientists have done frequency analysis on a traditional, properly intoned chant of AUM.
What did they find?
It tends to resonate right around 136.1 zeros.
136.10. That is incredibly specific. Why that number? Is it just arbitrary?
Not at all, it seems. It appears to be mathematically aligned with the rotation of the Earth.
Hold on. You're saying the Earth makes a sound? I've never heard it.
In physics, everything that moves has a frequency. Now, the Earth rotates on its axis about once every 24 hours. That's a period of time. Frequency is just 1 divided by that time period.
Okay.
Now, obviously, a 24-hour cycle is a frequency that is way, way too low for the human ear to hear. It's deep, deep infrasound.
Right. So we can't actually hear the Earth spinning.
Not directly, no. But there's a principle in music and physics called the octave. If you take any frequency and you double it, you get the same note, just 1 octave higher.
Like middle C and high C on a piano, same note, different pitch.
Exactly the same principle. It's the same quality of sound, just at a higher pitch. So, if you take the Earth's ridiculously slow rotational frequency, that 24-hour cycle, and you keep doubling it, bringing it up octave by octave by octave, until it finally hits the audible range of the human ear, you land on C sharp.
And that C sharp is?
Specifically 136.10 hertz.
That is. That's wild. So you're saying 136.0 hertz is the Earth's note?
Essentially, yes. It's the hum of the planet we're standing on right now, just translated into a range that our ears can actually process.
So when a monk is chanting AUM, they aren't just picking some random pitch that feels good. They are literally tuning their instrument, their body, to the fundamental frequency of the planet.
That's the idea. The source calls this anahata, the unstruck sound. The concept is that by chanting at this specific frequency, you create a resonance. You know how if you pluck a guitar string and there's another guitar in the same room?
The same string on the other guitar will start vibrating on its own.
Sympathetic resonance? The argument here is that chanting AUM creates a sympathetic resonance between the human physiology and the planetary system. You are syncing up. You aren't just making a noise. You are locking into the local oscillation of your immediate environment.
That feels like a perfect segue. We've talked about the cosmos. We've talked about the planet. So let's zoom all the way in. Let's talk about the human machine. Because the source is claiming this isn't just about feeling one with the Earth. It says this is actually rewiring the hardware of the brain.
Yes. This is where we move from astrophysics to neuroscience. And the source gets very specific here. It focuses on something called the default mode network, the DMN.
The DMN. I've actually heard this term before in relation to research on psychedelics.
It's the very same mechanism. The DMN is this network of brain regions, specifically areas like the posterior cingulate cortex and the medial prefrontal cortex, and it's most active when you're doing, well, when you're doing nothing.
When I'm just zoning out on the couch.
When you aren't focused on a specific external task, it's your brain's idle state. But idle is a very misleading word because when the DMN is active, your brain is actually working incredibly hard.
Doing what?
Ruminating. Thinking about that stupid argument you had 3 years ago.
Oh, I know that one won.
Or worrying about the big meeting tomorrow. Or replaying that awkward thing you said at the party last week. It's the monkey mind. It's self-referential processing. It's all about me, me, me. And it consumes a huge amount of your metabolic energy.
It's like having 50 browser tabs open in the background of your computer, all draining the battery.
That is the perfect analogy. And the source actually compares this DMN activity to high entropy. It is mental disorder. It's noise. Now, it serves a purpose. It helps build our sense of self, our autobiography. But when it's overactive, it's strongly linked to anxiety and depression.
So what does chanting do to all those open browser tabs?
It forces a force quit on all of them.
Really? Just like that?
The source cites research involving fMRI scans of people's brains during what it calls TAP, or this focused chanting. And the activity in the default mode network just plummets significantly.
It just shuts the noise up.
It reduces the entropy. All that energy that was being wasted on random, anxious, circular thoughts gets reclaimed. But it gets even better. If you do this consistently, long term, it leads to neuroplasticity.
The brain literally changing its physical shape and structure.
Correct. The source references studies from places like Harvard and MIT. It's likely talking about the work of Dr. Sarah Lazar, which showed that long-term meditators actually have physically different brains than the rest of us.
Different how?
Specifically in the prefrontal cortex.
That's the executive center, right? The CEO of the brain.
Right behind your forehead. This is the area responsible for focus, for decision-making, for emotional regulation. In these long-term practitioners, that area was thicker.
Thicker, you mean like physically bigger, more dense?
Physically thicker.
Fair.
More gray matter, which means more neurons and more connections between those neurons.
So you are literally building muscle in the part of your brain that makes you rational and calm.
You're upgrading the processor. The source connects this directly to the old yogic concept of purifying the buddhi, or the intellect. It's not just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about building a brain that is physically more capable of handling complexity and dealing with stress. You are changing the hardware.
That's incredible. And all just from making a sound.
Well, from focusing the attention and using the vibration of the sound to drive that focus deeper. It's like lifting weights.
Yeah.
If you just think about lifting a dumbbell, your biceps don't grow. You have to actually do the rep. The chant is the rep for your prefrontal cortex.
Okay, so that's the structural change, but that's just one part of it. We also have to talk about the electrical change, right? The brain waves.
We do. Alpha, beta, theta, delta, the greatest hits of brain activity.
So where are we, you and I, right now?
Right now, we're probably in a beta state. We're alert, we're active, maybe a little stressed trying to get this right. It's a choppy, fast frequency. If we were to relax, we might drop into alpha. That's more of a flow state.
Right.
But the source highlights a very specific and much rarer wave state that occurs during deep tap or chanting, and that is gamma waves.
Gamma, those are the super high frequency ones, right?
Very fast, between 30 and 100 hertz. Now, in a normal person, you might see a tiny burst of gamma for a split second when you have an aha moment, a sudden insight.
The light bulb turning on over your head.
That's the one.
Ow.
But what they see in these advanced practitioners during TAP is sustained gamma activity. And here's where this idea of quantum syncing really comes in. Gamma waves are unique because they seem to solve what neuroscientists call the binding problem.
The binding problem? What's that?
Think of your brain like a big orchestra. Usually the violin section, which is your vision, is doing one thing, and the percussion section, your hearing, is doing another. They aren't perfectly in sync. They're related, but they're sort of independent.
A bit like chaotic jazz.
Sometimes, yeah. But gamma waves are like the conductor stepping up to the podium, tapping the baton, and bringing the entire orchestra into perfect, tight, rhythmic unison.
It's synchronization.
Global synchronization. The source suggests that in this state, the brain stops acting like a fragmented collection of different parts and starts acting like a single, unified quantum system.
And the implication of that is superintelligence, a psychic state?
The word the source uses is superconduction. The expert view here, and I should stress this is a hypothesis, is that the resistance in the neural pathways drops to near zero. Information flows instantaneously across the entire network. The barrier between me, the DMN, and the data just dissolves. This is the biological description of what the mystics have called oneness for thousands of years. It's not a metaphor. It's a brain state where all the partitions collapse.
That leads to a really interesting mechanism that the text mentions. It's about the thalamus. It calls it the gatekeeper.
Yes, the thalamus. It's this small sort of egg-shaped structure deep in the center of your brain. And its job is basically to be the bouncer of your mind.
The bouncer.
Every single signal from your eyes, your ears, your skin, it all goes to the thalamus first. And the thalamus decides, is this important enough to send up to the conscious mind for processing?
So right now it's letting me hear your voice, which is important, but it's probably blocking out the feeling of my shirt on my back or the hum of the air conditioner in the background.
Exactly. If it didn't, you would be completely overwhelmed by sensory data. You wouldn't be able to function. Now, the source explains that this practice of chanting essentially retunes the thalamus. It trains the bouncer.
It trains it to do what exactly?
Yeah, to block the external world more aggressively, to turn down the volume dial on physical sensory input.
So it's a form of sensory deprivation?
Controlled sensory gating, yeah.
Yep.
And by reducing the noise from the physical world, the text argues that you open up the bandwidth for internal signals. This is the proposed mechanism for how a yogi can sit in the middle of a noisy train station and be in a state of total bliss. Their thalamus has physically blocked the noise. It's not that they are ignoring it. Their brain literally isn't processing it.
And what are these internal signals that are now coming through?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If you shut down the monkey mind and you block out the external world and your entire brain is vibrating in this coherent gamma state, what is left?
Yeah. Who is listening?
The source uses a term that really tries to bridge physics and spirituality: non-local consciousness.
Non-local. Now, that's a very specific physics term.
It is. In quantum mechanics, locality means things interact because they are touching or, close to each other. Non-locality implies a connection without distance. Spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it.
Right.
The suggestion here is that consciousness isn't trapped inside your skull. It isn't generated by the neurons, like steam coming from a steam engine.
The brain isn't a factory producing consciousness. It's a radio receiving it.
That is the receiver theory in a nutshell. The brain is an antenna, and when you tune it to the gamma frequency and you remove all the static from the DMN, you get a perfectly clear signal. And that signal, the theory goes, is the universal quantum field.
So self-realization is just better reception.
In a way, yes. You aren't creating enlightenment. You are simply tuning into the signal that is always there, but was being completely drowned out by the noise of the monkey mind and the chaos of the external world.
Okay, I need a second to process that one. The brain as a quantum receiver. It's a beautiful, elegant idea. But the source material doesn't stop at the brain. It goes even deeper. It goes into our cells, into our genetics.
This is part 3 of the journey. We're moving into biology and specifically epigenetics.
Right, epigenetics. It's a buzzword we hear a lot these days. Hack your genes. What does it actually mean in this context?
Well, the old high school biology view, what was called the central dogma, was basically genetic determinism. You have the DNA your parents gave you, it's a fixed blueprint, and that's that. Good luck. If you had the gene for something, you're getting it.
You are dealt a hand of cards, and you just have to play them as best you can.
Right. Epigenetics comes along and says, no, you can't change the cards in your hand, but you can absolutely choose which cards you play. The word literally means above genetics. It turns out that your environment, your stress levels, your thoughts, they act like a series of light switches. They can turn specific genes on or off.
So you can actually change the script that your body is reading from.
You can change the expression of the script, absolutely. And the source focuses very heavily on one particular chemical here, cortisol.
The stress hormone.
The stress hormone. Cortisol is the survival mode chemical. It's fight or flight. When cortisol is flooding your system, your body fundamentally believes there is a tiger chasing you right now.
So it shuts down everything that isn't essential for immediate survival. Things like digestion, your immune system, long-term repair projects.
Exactly. It's like stopping all construction on a new building because the building is currently on fire. You don't worry about painting the walls when the roof is about to collapse.
And if there's a metaphorical fire every single day, the building eventually just falls apart.
That is the biological basis of chronic stress, aging, and disease. Now, the source argues that chanting and this deep state of tap drastically reduce cortisol levels. The fire alarm finally stops ringing, and the body shifts from survival mode into repair mode.
It starts the construction projects again.
It starts producing proteins that reduce inflammation, that repair damaged cells, that rebuild tissues. And there's a very specific enzyme mentioned here that I found absolutely fascinating. It's called telomerase.
Yes, this is based on the work of a Nobel Prize winner, right? Elizabeth Blackburn. This is real hard science.
It is. This isn't theoretical.
So break down telomeres for us. What are they?
The best analogy is to imagine your shoelaces. You know the little plastic caps at the very end that keep them from fraying?
The aglets.
The aglets. Telomeres are the aglets of your chromosomes. Every single time one of your cells divides, the telomeres get a tiny bit shorter. It's like a countdown clock. And when the aglet's finally gone, the shoelace starts to fray, the DNA gets damaged, the cell starts making errors, or just dies. This is essentially the fundamental mechanism of aging.
And stress just chews these things up faster.
Stress dramatically accelerates the shortening.
Yeah.
But here's the incredible finding. Deep meditation and chanting have been directly linked to an increased production of an enzyme called telomerase.
And what does telomerase do?
It rebuilds the aglet. It adds length back onto the telomeres.
Wait a second. Are you saying that by chanting, you are chemically reversing the aging process at a cellular level?
You are certainly slowing it down, and in some cases, potentially repairing the accumulated damage. The host in the source material highlights this implication directly. TAP effectively slows down biological time. It's not magic. It's biochemistry being driven by a change in your mental and emotional state.
That is huge. I mean, truly huge. But,
Huh.
and I feel like I keep saying this, but it gets weirder. The source goes one step further. It starts talking about light.
Biophotons. Yes.
This is where we get into that quantum antenna concept you teased right at the start. This feels like the edge of science.
This definitely brings us to the fringe, but it's a very fascinating fringe. It's based on the work of scientists like the German biophysicist Dr. Fritz Albert Popp.
Mm-hmm.
And he discovered that living cells emit light.
You mean like bioluminescence?
Right.
Like a firefly?
Much, much fainter. We're talking about light with the intensity of a single candle flame viewed from a distance of about 20 kilometers. You can't see it with the naked eye, but very sensitive equipment can pick it up. Popp called these ultra-weak emissions biophotons.
So our DNA is glowing.
Faintly, yes. And Popp's hypothesis, which aligns perfectly with the source material, is that this light isn't just some random waste energy. It's communication.
It's like biological fiber optics.
That's a great way to think about it. The idea is that your cells use these light signals to communicate almost instantaneously across the entire body. It might explain how the body coordinates trillions of chemical reactions per second. I mean, chemical signals moving through the blood are just too slow to account for that kind of speed. Light is fast.
So, okay, if DNA is emitting and receiving light, how does the chanting fit into that?
Sonic healing. Sound is vibration. The source argues that when you chant a specific coherent frequency like that 136.10 Hz we talked about, you are creating a physical vibration that permeates every cell in your body.
You're literally shaking the antenna.
You are harmonizing it. The theory goes that disease at a fundamental level creates incoherent light emissions. The signal gets fuzzy and full of static. The chanting acts as a powerful, coherent carrier wave that helps restore order. It effectively retunes the DNA so it can receive the original healthy blueprint clearly again.
That is a wild image, retuning your own biological antenna. Because if the antenna is bent, the picture on the TV is just static.
And if the picture's static for long enough, the body gets sick. The information has been corrupted. The sound helps to restore the geometry of that information.
This really brings us to the final and maybe most important piece of the puzzle. We've covered the entire universe, the brain, the individual cells, but ultimately, this is about the person, the self, living in that body.
It all comes back to the observer, doesn't it?
The source discusses how our belief about who we are fundamentally changes our biology.
This is like the placebo effect on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
But the source frames it very specifically around the concept of coherence.
We talked about brain coherence earlier. What is this coherence?
This is heart-brain coherence.
Mm.
This is something that groups like the HeartMath Institute have studied extensively. When you are in a state of fear or anxiety or anger, the rhythm of your heart rate variability, or HRV, looks jagged and chaotic on a graph.
It's incoherent.
It's completely incoherent, and that chaotic signal gets sent up to the brain, which in turn shuts down the higher reasoning centers in the prefrontal cortex. But when you are in a state of gratitude or compassion, or when you are chanting and feeling that deep sense of connection, that As Brahmasmi, I am the universe feeling, the heart's rhythm changes. It becomes a smooth, orderly sine wave pattern.
It creates a powerful, coherent carrier wave.
Exactly. And when the heart and the brain lock into that same coherent rhythm, the body's own self-healing mechanisms peak. The source argues that the ancient practice of tap or penance wasn't about punishing the body. It was never about suffering.
It was inner engineering.
It was pure inner engineering. They seem to have understood that consciousness is primary and matter is secondary. If you want to fix the machine, which is the body, you don't just bang on the machine with a wrench. You upgrade the software. And the software is your consciousness.
That really is the ultimate paradigm shift. We are raised to think that the brain creates the mind. This model suggests that the mind shapes the brain.
And modern quantum mechanics, specifically the observer effect, is beginning to lean that way. The world becomes what the observer is. If you change the frequency and coherence of the observer, you must, by definition, change the physical reality being observed.
That is a staggering thought to end on. We have covered a massive amount of ground today.
It's a complete ecosystem of ideas from the cosmos to the cell.
Let's do a quick recap for everyone listening just to try and lock all this in.
Let's do it.
We started with AUM, not a word, but a cosmic code. A is the Big Bang, the beginning of entropy. U is the stable spin, the quantum balance. M is the black hole, the dissolution.
And the silence that follows. The Turiya is the quantum field itself, the canvas for it all.
Then we tuned into 136.10 hertz. We learned that's the sound of the Earth's rotation, and chanting it syncs our biology to the planet we live on.
From there, we went into the brain. We talked about how chanting shuts down those 50 browser tabs of the default mode network, how it physically thickens the prefrontal cortex, and how it creates a gamma wave state of neurological superconduction.
We moved on to epigenetics, switching off the fire alarm of cortisol so that this amazing enzyme, telomerase, can get to work repairing our DNA and slowing down the process of aging.
And finally, the wildest part, biophotons. The idea that our DNA acts as a quantum antenna, constantly emitting and receiving light, and how our inner state, our coherence, determines the clarity of that signal.
It really is the intersection of the mystic and the mechanic, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it, a perfect summary.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought based on all of this. Something to, chew on while you're stuck in traffic later today.
Like that.
If our DNA really is an antenna and our consciousness is the signal being broadcast, what happens to the physical reality around us when we change the frequency of that signal? We talked about healing our own body. But if non-local consciousness is a real thing, if that signal goes everywhere, if you fundamentally change, does the universe have to physically change with you?
That is the ultimate question. If the observer changes, does the scenery have to change too?
Something to think about.
Indeed.
Just a reminder for everyone, this does conclude Part B of this series. The source material hints pretty strongly that the journey continues in a Part C, so we will definitely be keeping an eye out for that.
There's always more to learn.
Until then, treat your own mind as a laboratory. Test the hypothesis for yourself. Try a little tap, maybe in the shower, maybe in the car in your commute, and just see if you can find that silence. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.